The world shimmered under the early morning sun. Salt hung in the air. The shoreline was alive with energy and promise. And somewhere, out beyond the break, a lone figure sat straddling her board, waiting, breathing, daring. To the world, she looked small against the vast openness of the sea. To the sea, she was a force unlike any it had ever known, because long before this moment, she had faced a nightmare that would have shattered most. One fateful day, with a flash of gray and a bite of steel, her body was forever changed. One moment, a rising star in the world of competitive surfing, and the next, a survivor, clinging to life, her future bleeding into the water around her. They told her that her dream was over. They said that the ocean would be a place of fear now, a tragic ending, a cautionary tale. But they underestimated the storm that lived within her heart. Recovery was brutal. Physical pain was only the beginning. There were stares and whispers and doubts. There were mornings that she woke up and forgot, only to remember the loss all over again. But deep inside, a fire raged, a conviction louder than any wave, stronger than any fear. She would not be defined by what was taken from her. She would be defined by what she chose to give back. And what she chose was everything. Within months of the attack, she paddled back into the ocean. Her board had been adapted, her technique reborn, and her spirit unchanged. At first, it was a small wave, and then a bigger one, and a bigger one. Then competitions, real ones, against the best surfers in the world. She didn't just compete, she conquered. She authored a best-selling book. Her words became a beacon for anyone lost in their own storm. Her life became a film that inspired millions. She has since married and raised children and still tamed some of the fiercest waves on earth. She founded an organization to mentor those broken by life's cruelty, teaching them that scars are not the end of the story. They are just the beginning of victory's song. When others said, "You can't," she answered with a wave, a laugh, and a life that screamed, "Watch me." The girl who lost her arm, the girl who nearly lost her future, the girl who refused to lose her faith, is none other than Bethany Hamilton. Bethany's story is a reminder etched into the tides of history. You are not defined by what happens to you. You are defined by what you dare to become after. Every wave that looks like it's ready to drown you might just be the one that carries you to greatness. Today, the question is not, will the ocean be dangerous? It will always be dangerous. The question is, will you paddle out anyway? Welcome to the Mental Health Janitors, where we help you clean up the mess in your head. I'm your host, Sergeant Q, and with me, as always, Doc Jess.
Hi, welcome. Thanks for being here.
All right, Jess, I thought I had you stumped on this one, but you said you knew right away who it was.
Yeah.
Dang it, I thought this... Oh, because you saw the movie. Okay.
Yeah. She's a legend.
She really is. It's amazing. The one-armed surfer.
The one-armed surfer. And that I'm just so deathly afraid of sharks. I just can't even comprehend getting back in the ocean after that. So I can barely get in the ocean sometimes just knowing that there's sharks in the water.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that a shark attack would definitely be terrifying. For me, what an adrenaline rush, though. Think about that. Like, here's this thing. You're literally fighting for your life. And when I used to surf and I used to boogie board, I used to carry a dive knife. And so for me, I'm like, game on. Let's go, baby.
Nice. Of course you did.
But yeah, I mean, I'm clearly outmatched. You know, I mean, I can't swim that fast. I don't have a bunch of sharp daggers. I only got one. But, you know, if he ate me as a meal, he'd remember it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, and, you know, a quick recap of last week. Resilience is about building capacity, not just coping tools, right? And
So hold on. So what would be a coping skill? Like, what would be something coping versus building resilience in this situation with Bethany?
With Bethany, coping would be when she looked at the ocean and had an anxiety attack, working through that anxiety attack and in that moment, but not pushing her to get back in the ocean.
But yeah, would those coping skills ever push her to go back and surf? Maybe to dip her toe in the ocean?
Sure. Yeah, you can build coping tools on each step, building capacity or resilience. Sure. So coping tools are important in the process of building capacity, but coping tools left to themselves are not helpful. Okay.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Just the coping skill alone isn't going to get you back in that water riding those waves.
Right. And the whole world wouldn't even think twice if she decided never to get back in the ocean.
No,
they'd be like, totally, I get it. I understand.
You only got one arm. It's hard. Trust me, it's hard to paddle out past those breakers to even be set up.
Yeah.
And but people don't realize you don't just ride the wave in. You've got to paddle in to the wave to get enough momentum so that way it doesn't just tumble you. So that way you can crest and you can ride the wave in. So it is a very physical exercise to even get on that wave.
Not to mention you almost died by shark attack.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's just not forget that tiny piece. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't blame her if she never wanted to go in the ocean again. I would say, you do you, boo.
We get it.
Yeah. But she decided to do something else, right?
And that's why she's remembered.
Exactly. And I wonder how many lives that she's encouraged and helped along the way.
Millions. It's really, really cool. I think that she's great. And so we don't really talk about what this is going to be and my Q-tail. We just barely mention it. And then I select one and then we go right into the studio. So this turned out really, really well.
Yeah. So this week, actually, we're going to talk about how to build emotional stamina, right? The ability to stay present in discomfort without shutting down, blowing up, or checking out. And I'm sure there's plenty of times that she had to push through in her discomfort and not shut down or check out, right?
Yeah. I mean, she had to redesign her whole technique for surfing, which she had done for many, many years. And now she had to redesign that. So I'm sure there was a ton of failure that happened trying to figure out how to do this now that she is missing an arm.
Yeah. So the emotional stamina is the ability to tolerate discomfort without needing to escape or explode. Emotional avoidance might bring like a temporary relief, right? But over time, it shrinks our window of tolerance. If you can't feel it, you can't heal it. And if you don't learn to stay with it, it will keep controlling you. I mean, how many people do I know? Oh, I mean, not even focusing on other people, but even my own life in times that I allowed my emotions to control me, right? And how limiting it was and debilitating it was, right? And I guess we can both stand here and preach at you this idea of emotional stamina because we both have overcome.
We both have it now. We both have emotional stamina.
Yes, and we've both had to push through trauma and emotional instability and learn all of those things. But we both, correct me if I'm wrong, have been at places where we didn't. Right in the beginning of our journey, we chose to shut down, blow up, or check out. Right? There's still times that I choose
escape.
To do that.
Right? And that was for me. I was like, okay, I don't feel good about this. I'm out. And I would do that in crowded places, in grocery stores, at concerts. I didn't go to theme parks, all those things. I was just like, nope, I'm uncomfortable. I'm out. And in the beginning, I think that's okay.
Sure.
Because you have to remove yourself so you don't get overwhelmed and then really become a danger to yourself or others. But if that trauma happened and we're talking 2-3 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road, and you're still using that coping mechanism to get out of the situation because you haven't taken the time to heal and build mental resilience, that is a big, big problem. And not just for you, for all of your friends and family.
Well, and there's all sorts of coping mechanisms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good and bad. We call them adaptive and maladaptive. It's not good and bad. Just like there's no good and bad emotions, right? Out of the 7 core emotions, right? Fear, anger.
Jess, you're killing it. I can't do it.
My hair?
Your hair. Can you just move it? Oh, it's freaking me out. I can't do it. I'm like, I'm a sensory guy, and that is just freaking me out.
It would kill me. Sorry.
Right.
Stop it. Okay.
Okay.
So if we think about like all the core emotions, right? 6, 7 of them, some people argue, but we have, happiness. Everybody loves that one. But all the rest are labeled bad. And it's not bad or good. It is what it is. And if we're taught like from a young age that these emotions are bad and good, subconsciously we're like, okay, I gotta avoid the bad ones. And we can't, like, 1 out of 6 or 1 out of 7 is good. What is the likeliness of you feeling happy all the time?
Yeah, I don't think it's the emotion, right, that's good or bad. It is the behavior that follows that emotion that
Right.
could be good or bad.
Right. Sure. And I'm not going to lie to myself or you guys. It feels best to be happy all the time. Absolutely. And it's impossible. So learn to have emotional stamina for those other emotions that might be discomfort or just uncomfortable, right? So we're going to teach a little bit about emotions and emotional stamina. So emotions are messengers, not enemies. They are not problems to fix. They're experiences to process. So the goal isn't to control your emotions. It's to regulate your responses to them.
You know what I found is very interesting is when I started to recognize when I'm having a strong emotion, anger, fear, resentment, whatever that is, why? I'd ask myself, wait, where is this coming from? Why do I feel this way? Well, I feel this way because this person said that. Okay, but why such an extreme emotion? And I had to go back. And your brain will do this. It'll connect the dots. It'll say, oh, this is how we got here. This person said this. It made you feel this way because these other situations happened in your life and that led you to that point to have that extreme emotion. And so for me, being very reflective in those moments and being like, why is this happening? Why do I feel this way? That helped me to unpack it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one thing that cognitive behavior therapy is really good at, right? Because we've talked about the cognitive triangle, and that is at the top, a situation happens. And that triggers an automatic thought. That automatic thought turns into a feeling or emotion. And then that feeling or emotion turns into a behavior, which is an action or an inaction. And so and it's human nature to fill in the blanks of the story that aren't told. So there's this one I think it was in like a continuing education class I took or something, where they kind of role played the husband saying, "Why did you put that there?" And then breaking down how that made the wife feel. She felt attacked. She felt accused. She felt all these negative feelings, right? When if he would have just followed up with his intent behind it, it would have taken away all the filler that she subconsciously did in her head, and eliminate unnecessary feelings. But it's not always on the communicator to be responsible to. We're not going to always be able to give the intent on why we ask a question. So we also need to be working on, right? Knowing is half the battle. Knowing what kind of stories our subconscious makes up in those fill in the blank areas, right? So when he said, why did you put that there? I want to know your process so I can help you keep the house organized, right? Like, oh, that feels so much better. But she was making up the story in her head, like, why'd you put that there? And it's the wrong place. And what are you thinking? You're stupid, right? We all do this. And so as a communicator, learning how to add some intentions when you ask questions can help. And as the receiver in communication, understanding where your mind goes at filling in those blanks in those stories. And this isn't even in my notes.
You know, it's funny. This is something that Holly and I deal with a lot, where I'll ask a question and she's like, well, why do you want to know? I'm like, I just want the answer. there is no question behind the question. Like, I'm a guy, I'm very simple. I just want to know the answer. I don't have some other ulterior motive.
Yeah.
And so with women, the way they think in like that. Holly's not going to ask me a question. She's going to ask me 2 or 3 other questions before she gets to the real question that she wants to know. But guys don't do that.
Yeah.
At least most guys don't do that. They just ask the direct question because they want to know that answer, and they're going to take that answer and go do whatever with it. But women think differently. So this is something that I have to remind Holly of when she's like, well, why? I said, I just want to know the answer. I don't have another question. And so, but I have to remind her of that. Like, I don't have another question. There is no ulterior motive. I'm not trying to build a case against this thing. I just want to know why this happened. And so I can have that information. I don't have a secondary question.
Yeah. It's the top 3 things we work through in couples counseling, scenarios like that.
One of the things that I look at with this triangle, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Jess, because you know it better than I do. But there's really only one piece of that you have control over, which is the behavior. Because the automatic thought comes in, the emotion is then released as well, because that's a chemical reaction that happens. So then the only thing that you have control of is the next part, as it processes to a behavior.
It's a very, very good view of it, or understanding view of it, and it's wrong, yes. So what we teach in cognitive behavior therapy is that automatic thought is not always true.
No, I'm not saying that it's true, but you can't control that, is what I'm saying.
You can't, okay, so
it comes in, it's like an intrusive thought.
Yes, so learning what your automatic thought usually tends to go through, and then tools to start changing that automatic thought to change the emotion.
Okay.
Because, and yes, you do. You always have control over your behavior, always. So yes, that part is true. And the purpose of cognitive behavior therapy is to not just control your behavior, but going back to the source
to control the automatic thought.
To control that automatic thought, right? Because we usually think tunnel vision, right? Like these automatic thoughts we have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. So the majority of them are automatic subconscious thoughts. And so it's understandable to just keep going with that narrative.
That's the whole stuck on stupid that I talk about.
Yes,
where
exactly.
You go back to that automatic thought.
Yes.
Right.
And so the point of this is kind of like what I teach in my parenting class is we can't just discipline behavior. We have to get to the heart and the root of the behavior, right? Because if we just change behavior, we're still struggling.
Right.
You're still struggling with those emotions. Because when that automatic thought comes in and it triggers an emotion or a feeling, on its way over to the behavior, we have a physiological response in our body.
Yes, you do.
So what we want to do is we want to change that so we don't have that same physiological response in our body. So another example could be, and I this is my favorite example because I love dogs, is Steve and Sally, who live in the cul-de-sac. Remember? And Steve grew up training dogs with his dad, who was a canine cop dog trainer, and Sally grew up brutally attacked by a dog. Had to go to the hospital, right? So the dog comes running down the street. Her automatic thought is, oh my gosh, this dog is going to attack me, runs in the house. He thinks, oh my gosh, why is this dog running around without an owner? And so he bends down and says, come here, boy. Looks at his dog tag, calls the family. They're like, oh my gosh, we've been looking for him for 3 days. And it reunites, right? And so automatic thought led to an emotion or a feeling. Both of them had a physiological response in their body that led to their behavior. And then both of their behaviors reinforced that their automatic thought was true because she made it safe inside. So she said, oh, I did the right thing. I escaped. And his behavior reassured his automatic thought was correct. When it was the same exact situation, 2 different automatic thoughts, 2 completely different behaviors.
Right.
And so we have different tools like the 6-pack I've talked about. Like when you start learning those automatic thoughts, just start entertaining other ideas. So if you have a problem with your roommate leaving our cereal bowl out, right? Your automatic thought might be, oh, she's so lazy. She's such a jerk. She doesn't care about us, right? And what emotion is that going to lead to? Anger. What can you do with anger? Not much. But if you entertain 6 other options, the 6-pack of, well, maybe, she is young. Maybe her mom did all of this for her and she just doesn't know. What does that lead to? That leads to maybe a little hope that you can just have a conversation with her. Maybe she has a different process. Maybe she looks around the living room at nighttime to clean up all her stuff. And that leads to maybe a little bit of hope. Like maybe we should just have a conversation that, can we just clean up after ourselves right away? Like there's, right? And so as the more you practice tools like this, the more that automatic thought is stuck here and we start opening up other pathways in our brain to start entertaining other thoughts that lead to other emotions that we can work with. Okay,
now,
go ahead.
So that might seem a little overwhelming, like, oh, 6-pack, I haven't thought about all these things. How do I do all that stuff? Here's a very simple way to start. Assume best intentions.
Yeah.
Very rarely are you going to have somebody who's out to get you. I mean, that makes great for a storyline in some drama or Batman flick. But most of us don't have an arch nemesis.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really made up by Hollywood inside of all these teeny bopper movies. Like, there's people we have disagreements with, but they typically don't follow you through your whole life trying to spend all of their time, energy, and money to destroy you. Like, that doesn't happen on a regular basis, not to the 99% of us. It's more often that we misinterpret their behavior as out to get us, when really they're not even thinking about us. They're just thinking about themselves and what they need to do, and you're not even a thought in their mind. They're not out to get you. This was so difficult for me to overcome when I started experiencing PTSD, because then I felt like everybody was out to get me on purpose. They were doing this. This is something I had to really, really work at.
Yeah.
And what helped me was assuming best intentions. It's a very simple phrase to repeat to yourself when one of these situations happens.
Yeah. And there's also, scripture in 1 Corinthians 13. Everybody likes to quote the love, right? Love is patient, love is kind, at the end it also says love hopes for the best. So with if we're just talking about your relationships with people that you love, you are, like, part of that is hoping for the best. And we so easily, especially in our marriage or in our close relationships, I could talk for hours on this. So just like Q said, this might be a little overwhelming. And if you want more in depth about that, we've talked about it in other podcasts. Maybe we can find which ones, or comment and say, hey, we really want to learn more about this, or email us or something.
Yeah. All of this stuff that we give you guys, it's completely wasted unless you use it.
Yeah.
Use these things. People pay us thousands of dollars to get this information, and we're just giving it out to you for free.
Yeah. Yeah. So bringing it back to maybe something a little more simple is we're going to talk a little bit about the idea of pause. Between the trigger and the reaction is a sacred moment. That's when stamina is built. Learning to pause. Okay. And so in learning to pause, the tool specifically that I want to recap today is RAIN. Recognize, allow, investigate, and then nurture.
Who created the RAIN technique?
Tara Brach. She's a mindfulness guru. And hers is very mythical and new agey. And so I've just kind of used it. I've kind of just modified it for me and my faith, right? Is I'm going to recognize the emotion that I'm feeling. Okay. And I'm going to say it out loud. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling frustrated, and whatever it is. And then I'm going to set a timer on my watch, on my phone, on my microwave, 1 to 2 minutes. And I'm just going to allow that emotion to run through my body, because it's there for a reason. And if we just stuff, it's going to just be there in a little bubble that's going to explode later anyways. So I'm just going to allow myself to feel that for 1 to 2 minutes. But then when that timer goes off, there's an audible noise that's hijacks that frontal cortex as you practice this intentionally to push you into the investigate. And so this is when we're going to investigate. Was there intentions to hurt me? Or could I be interpreting it wrong? Or, I mean, fill in the blank. Like, sometimes investigating is just investigating the promises of God. Sometimes the investigation, if it's a really high triggering situation like a panic attack, investigation could be a grounding technique like that Q talks about in Healing Through Service. It's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. It's a very simple way of grounding in the moment. And then N is nurture or not take personal. So making the choice, I'm not going to take what she said personal.
That's the part that I struggled with a lot, was that piece right there.
I'm also not going to take personal what I have to do in this moment to take care of myself. So before, right, you feel an emotion and you either explode or you escape. But once you start learning this process of the pause and then throwing in something like RAIN, after I've put in the effort to work through the emotion, if I still need to leave, I'm going to nurture myself for leaving and not take it personal. Because 1 out of 5 times I might be able to stay. when it used to be 0 out of 5. And then slowly and slowly and slowly, it gets more and more and more. One example is this. We did a women's tea on Saturday at our church. And I've just been pretty triggered lately because of several reasons. I read that book, The Women, and it's just been kind of a lingering trigger. But my brother-in-law put off a blowhorn in the morning that morning. And it's just like a compounding, right? And so we're decorating for this women's tea, and one of the tables has some kind of balloon decorations, and a balloon popped. And I freaked out. I know a balloon pop, it can be embarrassing sometimes, and I just started hysterically crying. And I had to go and ask them, like, I'm so sorry, but I can't be here if there's going to be balloons, because if there's balloons, I can't stop hyper focusing on them to when they're going to pop. And so they're so sweet. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, we forgot. Right. And then I start spiraling, like, oh, now they feel bad. Now they can't have their decorations. What is wrong with me? Right. Pause. And so I went in my car and I did rain. And 10 times out of 10, before I did all this work on myself, I would have just escaped. Not even a second thought. And I would have been justified in escaping because I have trauma, and it's understandable, just like Bethany would have been justified for not getting back in the water. But I chose to put in the work and start learning these tools that have helped me build my capacity. And I was able to stay and have a great time. Because of rain, because of pausing, because of the work that I've put into my own growth and my own mental health and mental resilience. I hope that helps. I like stories. It helps.
Here's the thing that we can offer you. We cannot do the work for you.
Right.
We've had to do the work for ourselves. But the 3 things that we can give you every single time, we can give you the training, the tools, and the time so you can be successful.
Right. Yeah. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of practice and application for this week. Here's your daily reflection prompt. So get out your pen and paper. When did I feel emotionally uncomfortable today? And just spend a couple of minutes writing about it. And then what did I do in response? Did I avoid, react, or stay present? The first process is not to try to change things right away. It's just reflecting on what you already do, okay? And then your weekly challenge is to pick one situation that triggers you regularly, commit to catching your first internal reaction, and then practice rain.
So I had a situation this weekend where Holly and I were driving. It's about a 4-hour drive that we were doing. So great. We love road trips. We have a lot of fun. And an incident happened an email came through. And immediately I was fired up because I had explained to my employees how I needed this certain thing done, and they didn't do it. And I was so angry in that moment. And now here's my wife, who we're having a great day. She starts asking me questions. And all I want to do is blow up at her, even though she had nothing to do with this at all. And I had to just be like, honey, I cannot talk to you about this right now. I need a minute to just process through this. And she said, oh, okay. Before that would have been a fight.
Yeah.
But we've both learned, and I did. I took a moment and I had to center myself. I didn't do this rain technique. I have a different technique that I do, but it's very similar, the same process. But I had to do that. I had to focus. I had to let those emotions go down before I could talk to my wife or before I could respond to the employee, because I wanted to call this employee and just rip them apart. Now, I did call and I had a very stern conversation, but it is nothing in comparison to the level that they were going to get if I would have acted in that moment of emotion. I had to be like, nope, I'm just going to tamper this down for a minute. I'm going to process through this. I'm going to organize my thoughts and think about how can I get this point across effectively without tearing them apart. And I see so many leaders do this where something happens, they act out of emotion, they tear this person apart. And then that person feels completely defeated. They've made a mistake, but now they're embarrassed, and then they go find another job. It's a terrible way to lead. The other fallout would have been the argument with my wife. If I hadn't taken that moment to say, I just need a moment, I got to process through this emotion, let that emotion wave, kind of because it hits me like a wave, let that wave subside, and then I could have a conversation with my wife, that was valuable because I know her. In the moment, she would have tried to offer me suggestions and all of these things because she wants to be helpful. I would have not been able to receive that at all. I would have not been able to receive it. But those are the types of moments that probably happen in your life as well, where something blindsides you, you have an overreaction emotionally, and then your friend or family member becomes cannon fodder for this other incident. So I want you to be mindful of that too. It's not just the direct communication with that individual that triggered you. It could be fallout to your friends and family as well that's being affected.
Yeah.
So I just want you guys to recognize that, see that, and be able to work through it so you don't damage other relationships unintentionally. And I used to be the master at doing that.
Right.
Damaging relationships.
It's so common in a marital relationship on the male side to do those things, right? And so it's very, very important. What I want to focus on here is how well both you and Holly have grown in self-awareness. Mm-hmm. You learning about yourself and knowing when you need to pause and take a break instead of just autopilot.
Yep.
Self-awareness on your part is going to help that situation so much, right? And that it takes no effort. It's just being self-aware. Hey, I'm not in a place right this moment. Let me have a few minutes, okay? And self-awareness for Holly, right? Both sides can help in this in knowing this isn't personal.
Right.
So when, there were several years, 2016 election, when my husband would get in these insane debates at the barbershop on political things. And me and the girls were the punching bag when he got home. And, not physically, okay, but I had to become self-aware for him because he didn't have the capacity or the knowledge or the understanding on how to do that, to where I helped him kind of unpack his day and help him connect the dots to realize, oh my gosh, yeah, I had a really stressful day and I'm carrying that frustration over, right? Mm-hmm. And so not everybody can be married to a counselor. Sorry, I wasn't a counselor back then, but the Lord helped guide me in how to be a good helpmate to my husband in that. And I had to learn to not take it personal, right? I'm not going to I wasn't physically a punching bag. Okay. Disclaimer. But the world and everybody would be like, oh no, you stand up for yourself, girl. Like, no, I'm his helpmate. There's a reason he is being short or being rude or whatever. And it's not me. Let me help him uncover what it is. And so it's self-awareness on my part and self-awareness on his part. We both have a role to play in that. And so again, there's another tangent, but really good information. I do want to
really is.
Yeah, I want to remind you guys that you're not weak for feeling strong emotions. You're strong when you stay present with them. Okay? I can say with confidence I'm one of the strongest women I know. But I feel really, really strong emotions, but I sit with them. I've learned to sit with them, okay? So you're not weak for feeling strong emotions. Every time that you practice the pause for whatever works for you, rain or there's other tools, you're building capacity that will serve you next time life gets hard. So I want you guys to make sure that you stay in tune with this 5-part series because it's really good stuff. Next week, we're going to build grit and mental toughness, how to keep going when you want to quit. And remember, you guys, if you like our stuff, like it physically, click the button to like, subscribe, share it with somebody, your friends, your family.
Because we always want to educate, empower, and encourage you on your mental health journey. For the Mental Health Janitors, I'm Sergeant Q.
I'm Doc Jess.
And we're out.